Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football live stream. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pizzapia. That handsome young fella is Andrew Erickson sitting next to me, and we're going to go through the latest news of the day and take all of your fantasy questions. We know you got a ton of drafts going on right now. We got draft weekend, obviously, quickly approaching. We've also got real football finally staring us in the face. Thank goodness. Oh, yeah, and tomorrow, don't forget, we've got a little thing called the Fantasy Festival of Friendship going on. That's right, the Fantasy Fest. I can't even say I'm so excited about it. The 2023 Fantasy Fest, brought to you by Betting Pros, in a world where Andrew Erickson, Joe Pizzapia, Derek Brown, Ryan Wormley, and a cast of characters including Pat Fitzmaurice will talk fantasy for, 7,000 hours. It's going to be amazing. We have incredible guests lined up. We've got mock drafts lined up. Basically, just watch YouTube all day. Watch us on Fantasy Pros. We're going to be talking football all day long. And if you miss any part of it because you have a job or a family or something else going on, guess what? It's still going to be there on the YouTube channel. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that little bell till it goes dings. And every time a piece of content drops, and the Fantasy Fest begins tomorrow, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch the best of the fest that our amazing producer, John, is putting together as we speak. It's going to be fantastic, so you can listen on the audio side of that. Andrew Erickson got a little bit of news here at the top. So for everybody waiting on the Jonathan Taylor drama, shocker, it didn't end well. All right, so no matter what what the discount you got of the drafts, he didn't get traded. He is back in Indianapolis. He is miserable, and he's on the PUP list to start the season, missing 4 games, and then you throw in that bye, so really, there's going to be 5 weeks you don't have Jonathan Taylor. Andrew Erickson, let's take the temperature for all those people who drafted Jonathan Taylor, and maybe you're one of them. How do you feel today about this scenario going on with the Colts, and what do we do about it in Indianapolis with the running back situation now up for grabs?
Yeah, it's not ideal for people that thought that they were getting a discount on Jonathan Taylor because now it wasn't enough with Jonathan Taylor. You know, the talent is undeniable, but now he's going to miss the first 4 weeks or 5 weeks that you talked about with the bye week thrown in there. So it's definitely problematic. Hopefully, you drafted some depth at running back, knowing that Jonathan Taylor was not the safest pick. So hopefully, you have some depth, whether it's a Samaje Perine, whether it's a Jeff Wilson, somebody that you can kind of use to fill in the beginning weeks of the season, hoping and praying that Jonathan Taylor does come back to play at some point. But even that's like not a guarantee. You talked about how disgruntled he is with the franchise, and it's also still possible he gets traded before October, like before Halloween. Like that's still in the range of potential outcomes with Jonathan Taylor as teams are trying to make Super Bowl runs. Hey, we're going to pay for Jonathan Taylor, and maybe the asking price that Jim Irsay is looking for now that they're already into the season. Hey, we're not going to use Jonathan Taylor anyway. Like, yeah, we'll take a discount for him 6 weeks into the season. So I don't think that the 2023 story of Jonathan Taylor is done yet. I think that we're still going to see a lot of things unfold here. But I did my initial rankings in terms of updating with the Jonathan Taylor news. So I moved Jonathan Taylor to my running back 17. He's someone that I would probably not draft until like round 6. That's probably where I'd feel okay, like just taking on some risk, because then you baking him in with a bunch of other running backs that honestly just have like question marks and potential pitfalls in their profiles. And now Jonathan Taylor kind of just joins that tier of running backs with problems where it could work out or it could just be a disaster. So he's kind of now in that tier with the rest of those running backs. And then for me, Deion Jackson will probably be the week 1 starter, but that's because Zach Moss has a broken arm. He could be the week 2 starter. Evan Hall would be my long-term play, and my best bet at who would be the week 17 starter would be Evan Hall. So
Here you
do
go.
with that what you will.
Somewhere Derek Brown is really excited because he is screaming with his shirt off, Evan Hall, Evan Hall, and he's just screaming somewhere around Texas. If you see him, call the authorities and please someone bring him back home. But Erickson, shouldn't we have seen this coming? I mean, I think we saw this coming, but I mean the royal we, like the fantasy community at large, and this whole like Jonathan Taylor upside thing, and this like when it's ever since the Le'Veon Bell controversy a couple years ago, and maybe there's 2 camps. Maybe there's the people who got burned by that scenario, and then everybody else. Now I was in the camp that got burned by that scenario. I thought, oh, he'll figure it out. They'll figure it out, everything over, and he'll play nice. There'll be money in there. Nope, didn't happen. Ruined a lot of fantasy seasons for a lot of people, and I think ever since Now when there's an unhappy running back, there's so many problems, in my opinion, about that. And the first one is, number one, if they do finally agree right before the season starts, they're rushed. They inevitably have injuries, right? Like, that's my big concern about Josh Jacobs. And then with Jonathan Taylor, it's like, okay, this guy's unhappy, pissed off at the organization's not happy with him. They say he's not worth anything. And then they go out in the open market and say, hey, he's worth a lot, which is kind of a hypocrisy when you think about it. And at the end of the day, why are you making an early fantasy investment in this kind of players? So next year, when there will inevitably be more running back drama, is this something that we're all going to stand up here and say, hey, remember last year or remember a couple of years ago, and stop buying into it?
I mean, there's always going to be risk involved with running backs, whether they're playing or not, and whether they have contract disputes or not. A lot of times it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Like last year, there are players that are holding out. Sometimes it works out buying low on them. Sometimes it doesn't, like the Le'Veon Bell
Mhm.
situation. So, I'm not going to poo poo someone that drafted Jonathan Taylor if he fell into round 4 before this happened because, hey, you're taking a risk. Like you're shooting for upside because
Mhm.
what if he did get traded to the Miami Dolphins? Like that was in play to happen. Like that definitely could have happened today, as well as him now remaining on the PUP list. So anyone that is saying like, oh, like I definitely knew he was going to miss 4 weeks, like from the get go, like we didn't know that. No, like we didn't. Like it was one of the potential outcomes, as was him being traded to Miami, which Miami sent a trade offer, but it just wasn't good enough to get him. So, the NFL teams tried to do what they thought was best for their teams. And at the time, it doesn't make sense for Miami to trade for them. When Jeff Wilson and Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert are all injured, okay, well, maybe now they're singing a different tune trying to acquire Jonathan Taylor. So, like I said at the top, I don't think that the story's over with JT. He has to accrue a season of NFL play at some point this year, or else the Colts are just going to retain his rights. And then he's going to be in the exact same situation next year.
I can't
So,
wait. I can't wait for that. Let's see that. I'm here for it. Give me my popcorn. I want to hear it. I also want to hear all of your questions because we've got answers. Drop them here in the chat. And before we get going, I got a fun thing to do, which is give away free stuff because we love to do that here at Fantasy Pros. The winner of the autographed Josh Jacobs jersey, hopefully he'll wear it. Hopefully Josh Jacobs will wear his, courtesy of bettingpros.com. That big winner is Eric Rivera. So Eric, good job. Way to go. You follow directions. Please hit us up at our customer support. All you got to do, email us, mailbag@fantasypros.com. Again, hit us up at mailbag@fantasypros.com with your mailing address, proof of your subscription to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, and we'll get back to you and send that jersey shipped out to you ASAP. Congratulations again to Eric Rivera. And I know what you're saying, Joe. Well, now that we've given that away, do you have any more free stuff? And well, I do. I have an Odell Beckham jersey that I want to give you. All you have to do, comment below, subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, click that little bell till it goes ding, and then that's it. That's all you got to do. Boom. Odell Beckham jersey, autographed by Odell Beckham. Hopefully you won't hurt himself signing it. That's our only hope, that he'll be able to be healthy through that process, and that could be yours. It's a nice looking jersey. I like the Ravens jersey. I like the purple and black. That's my high school colors. What were your high school colors, Erickson?
green and white.
Green and white. I don't love that. I don't know. What kind of green?
Well, Kelly green.
Kelly green. So it was like a Notre Dame kind of thing without the blue. Is that what's happening?
Kind of. I mean, yeah,
That's
I guess.
great. I like the
I mean,
purple and black.
my mascot was horrible. So you don't.
What were you?
So I went to Sutton High School in Massachusetts, and our mascot was a Sammy, Sutton Sammies.
What the hell's a Sammy? Like, is that something I eat
We
at
don't, we don't
lunchtime?
know. The
I
mascot
like
was a guy that was hunched over with a shotgun.
We were just the Knights. We were purple and black. So yeah,
I mean,
way better.
That makes sense. I wish that was
Sammy.
ours.
Wow. Now I want some gear from your high school.
And on the female side, it was Susie's.
Sammy's not getting better. This is not getting better.
It wasn't great.
Let's get to Brian's question. Brian Scott, let's kick things off with you. Half PPR, 12-team league. Most teams select a kicker and defense in rounds 8 and 9. Who do I target in round 8 and 9? Why is everyone high at your draft? What's happening here, Brian? What's going on? Don't you be that person. If you're going to do anything here in the 12-team league, maybe get in the defense run so you get a decent one. But Erickson, I mean, look, here's the defenses I want to target. I'll let Erickson take kickers because they're dead to me. So here you go. I'm going with Dallas. I'm going with Philly. San Fran, they're a little bit older. I'm a little worried, especially with the Bosa stuff. Another one that kind of concerned me there. I like the value you get on the Jets. I like the value you get on the Patriots. They have a late bye too, so you don't have to replace them right away. I would pick somebody up though for that week 1 because I don't love them against the Eagles week 1. And then I would consider the Chiefs and the Saints, who have good opening. As far as kickers go, I mean, come on, Erickson, we're not looking for a kicker in round 9. That's crazy talk, right?
I'm not drafting kicker or defense. You could be drafting Zay Flowers in round 8. Why would I draft defense?
Why are we doing
kicker?
this? Yeah, like no.
You draft Elijah Moore. You could draft Sky Moore. Dude, there are defenses you can draft. The Falcons or the Panthers. They play each other week 1. Pick your flavor. The bad quarterbacks, rookie quarterback making his first start. Either one. Pick a kicker in a dome. There you go.
Yeah, this is not good. Brian, get better friends. Sandeep Takar. If you're in the 6th, at the 6th spot in the full PPR, what do you think? Bijan, Chubb, Kelcee, or Diggs? Erickson, what do you want to do?
Chubb.
6th pick in a PPR, you're taking Chubb?
Is Chubb or Bijan?
I'm taking Bijan over Chubb still, but I like Chubb there too. So not Kelcee, just out of curiosity. Diggs is not in there for me.
I'm pushing my chips in. I'm just going to bet against the 34-year-old tight end. Like I don't care at this point. Like I'm not taking him in the middle of the first round.
I'm fine with. I don't disagree. You know me, Team Bijan, Chubb Club. I'm good with either of those picks. Durs do. I drop Dobbs for Romeo Dobbs for Tajay Spears, or keep Romeo Dobbs.
I'd rather have the running back handcuff on my bench.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to Richie Silva. We love Richie. Richie's a OG here. If you have Achane, you should start looking into moisturizers and syrup. There you go. I'm drafting Devon Achane for free, everyone. Like, he's basically free. Go draft him because Wilson and Mostert are never going to play 17 games. All right, Lloyd Scheutz. Would you do this trade? Full PPR, super flex. It's a 10-team league. Tua, Kirk, and Connor for Herbert, Ridley, and Pittman. What side do you want to be on? You want Tua, Kirk, and Connor, or you want Herbert, Ridley, and Pittman? I want Herbert, Ridley, and Pittman. True story.
I agree.
Yeah. Lloyd, that's the side to be on. I don't know which side is yours, but that's the side to be on. Let's go to Ed Hicks Shenanigans. Is Jonathan Taylor going to pull Le'Veon Bell? I don't know, but I mean, if you have a draft this weekend, I'm not touching him. Erickson, you said you had him at 18, RB 18, 17?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's ahead of him and who's behind him? Give me the 2 guys ahead and the 2 guys after him. And I'm just curious. I'm going to put myself on the clock. Okay.
So
you are on the clock.
So I put him behind Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall has similar.
I'm drafting Breece Hall everywhere because he's way too cheap now. Everywhere.
Is he though? I don't see him go. Where are you seeing him so cheap? Like what drafts?
Dude,
I see him go like the
CBS,
3rd, 4th round still.
I'm in the CBS Expert League and I got him in the 5th round.
Yeah, I like that. I like that price. I haven't been lucky to see him.
Actually, no, I got him very late 4th round because I was at the turn. Okay. And then it came back around to me. So I just wanted to make sure that I locked him in. But I started 3 wide receivers. I started Jamar Chase, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle with that team. And then I took Breece Hall and Javonte Williams as my running back. So I'm like, okay, let's go. And by the way, I have Justin Fields too on that team. So we're going to win that. We're going to go back-to-back championships in that expert league. But question for you here, who is after? So Breece Hall, yes. Who's after?
Rachaad White, Cam Akers, James Conner, Damian Pierce, James Cook, Ken Walker, Miles Sanders. So Javonte
Cook
Williams
is the one that I would take over Taylor if that group really stands out. James Cook is the guy that I would. If you want to push your chips in and take a shot, Cook I would take over Jonathan Taylor at this point.
But do you agree like that he kind of should be in that tier?
100%.
Okay, cool. That's what I really kind of wanted to get across.
I'll be honest with you, man. I'm not taking him before any RB2s in my book because, again, do I want to start off 0-4? Like, it has to be such a huge discount. Now, ranking him is one thing. Drafting him is another. Because I understand.
That's why I said round 6.
Yes.
Be like, okay, who do I have? What's my team?
But here's the problem. It's like people confuse rankings and drafting sometimes in that sense of like, yeah, it's a guideline. But at the same time, what Andrew's saying is Jonathan Taylor is good enough that even if he plays a shortened season, he might end up ahead of those guys anyway. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's a fantasy investment ahead of those guys because you need to compete the first couple of weeks. Like, that's the problem here. Let's go to Sean Masihi. Sean Masihi. Would you trade Cortland Sutton and Miles Sanders right now for Alvin Kamara and Darnell Mooney?
No,
I wouldn't either. Matthew Bungo. Josh Jacobs or Amon-Ra St. Brown the second? Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Amon-Ra.
No second guessing, Matthew. Trey. What's up, Trey? 10-man league, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, and there's another flex? I don't understand. 2 wide receiver. Oh, so he's got 2 flexes, then another flex where you could play a tight end. So 3 flexes in a 10-man league. This is a very deep kind of makeup for the fact that it's a 10-person league. With the ability to start 6 wide receivers, do I just hammer wide receiver? Yeah, I think you do, Trey. What do you think, Erickson?
This sounds like a perfect just do a hero RB. Just draft one running back you really like, and then just draft receivers like all the way, the rest of the way.
That build I talked about from yesterday's draft, Chase, Olave, Waddle, that's the start I'd like to get in this draft. You can do that. Tristan Kirk, fun name. Start sit advice. Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson as RB2.
I don't know who they're playing. I can't do start sit advice. I can't do it. I'm not there yet.
I haven't looked. I don't have the power. I just can't do it. I can't possibly look ahead to week 1 already. What are you trying to do to me? I can't. For goodness sake.
I'm not answering start sit question. I can't. I'm sorry, it's an AMA, but like it's not. We're still in draft season, Tristan. Like, all right. If I had to do my best guess, I would say whoever I drafted first. So I guess
Charbonnet would be the one that I would start probably first.
But why?
Because I think Charbonnet will work himself in already because he's been working a lot with the ones.
But that's because Ken Walker hasn't been playing at all.
Right. So, but Ken Walker hasn't been playing because Ken Walker's been hurt. So maybe Charbonnet gets enough work here where I think it's viable.
I mean, I would probably just start Tank Bigsby week 1 because he's playing
just hope for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do. But I don't know.
And then Evan Ingram or Juwan Johnson. I would start Evan Ingram.
I think just just draft the guys you start the guys you drafted first. Like you drafted them all for a reason in a certain order. Like pick the best guys. So that's what I would just do week 1.
One of our friends from Discord, Joseph Navarro. By the way, Discord's free. FantasyPros.com/chat. Go join it. Joseph Navarro. Are we expecting Fournette to possibly sign with the Colts? I don't know about but I am not. Are you, Andrew?
No. Didn't Kareem Hunt visit the Colts? Was that
Hunt? Maybe not Fournette. I don't see Fournette being that guy. William Roberts, Jackson or Hull? You kind of said this right. Jackson for the short term, Hull for the long haul.
Yeah, for the long haul. Oh, that's low hanging fruit.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. Sean Malicote, big topic. JT, what kind of dynasty value do you think he currently has? That's a good question.
Oh, he'd be a buy for me right now. Screaming buy.
Buy on the cheap, yeah. But I'm not paying full price for it. No. Let's go to our friend Dominic Gazzetti. How you doing? What's up, Fantasy Pro Joe? Actually, Fantasy Pro and the Joe. There you go. That's our new show. That's a good show. We should do that. Fantasy Pro and the Joe. That's us. It's like Thelma and Louise. 12-team half PPR keeper league got 2 pick. Chase and JJ are being kept. So number 1 goes CMC. Who are you taking after that? I'm taking Bijan, especially if there's keeper implications.
Yeah, if there's keeper, it's Bijan.
Hill is intriguing, but I assume Hill's kept 2. Like, I'm just going to assume that. So CMC goes 1. Bijan's that guy. Let's go to another question here from Sean. There's more start sit advice. Sean, hit us up in a couple days about the start sit. We got to get through Fantasy Fest first. Shane Sylvia, is it worth the risk Khalil Herbert for Jonathan Taylor? Would you make that trade? Trying to look ahead? I'm not. I want Herbert, and I'm out. I don't.
Nope. If you're just looking at where you drafted these players, Khalil Herbert, if you drafted him like round 9, it's essentially getting Jonathan Taylor in round 9. Like I would do that trade.
It depends on what my roster looks like.
Herbert's probably a bench guy for you. Like you're trading for Taylor to put on your bench. Like that seems like a pretty good value to me.
I guess like if Herbert is starting for me, then okay, I see where you're coming from. That makes sense. But I don't know, man. I just want guys that play. Like I want guys in situations where they want to play. It's just I got a bad. What's the over under on the Colts? I want to go bet it right now. Like that's just I'll go bet the under. Like it just.
They're not trying to win games. They're just trying to figure out what Richardson is. So
speaking of betting, James Betsworth, is Waller worth the risk in the 5th round? There we go. This is the $1 million question. We love the risk a couple weeks ago. Now, do we like it where it is?
That's probably as high as I'll go. I won't go any higher than that.
That's where you're gonna. That's enough. That's too rich for Erickson's blood. Right there. Right on the precipice. That's where you got it. All right, let's continue on here with some more questions. Again, make sure you like the stream. Make sure you drop a comment below as well. We're going to continue to take your questions here. I want to look for some more things to tell you about because we got a lot of fun things. By the way, our producer John just sent me a picture of what your mascot is, I believe. It is hilarious. It looks like some sort of it's like a Warner Brothers cartoon character that didn't make the cut in Big Bugs Bunny stuff. It's like this guy's not interesting enough. Like he's got the hat, he's got the beard, he's got the shotgun. There's a whole thing. It's very upsetting. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. All right, let's get to your questions. Very upsetting. All right, Diego Viramontes. What is the strategy to draft in half PPR? Do you go strong RB or play the draft board, Erickson? What do you do here? What adjustments do you make in half versus full?
I just tried to enter the draft with a more of an emphasis on touchdown production when it comes to the skill players. I think that matters a little bit more. Like the guys like the Godwins, the Deontay Johnsons, where maybe they don't have a ton of touchdown upside, but they get a lot of volume. Like volume is less of a floor that you can support with some players in half PPR. Like you actually have to be efficient and you have to score. So relying on guys that are just volume driven is tougher of a sell in half PPR than in full PPR, where you can just kind of get by on just like blank volume. So that's one thing I try to keep in mind. And then it's still just play the draft board. Like I never want to go in a draft be like I have to do X. Like if the three best running backs that I love are the first three guys that are available to me, I'll start with 3 running backs in a row. But it could also be 3 wide receivers in a row if those are the best guys on the board. Like you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into drafting a certain position because that's how you just draft an inferior team. So
yeah, that's good advice. I would say the same thing. It's touchdown equity I'm looking for a little bit harder as opposed to volume. So I'm looking for better offenses, better teams. Not that I'm not looking for that anyway, but like that's the demarcation between two players you're trying to decide between, Diego. And it's a really good question because I think sometimes people overestimate the change in the scoring. It's where touchdown equity matters a little bit more. As Erickson said, volume matters not a little bit less, but slightly. And then at the same point, I think that you're also playing the board is right. Like you want the best players. Your whole point is early in drafting the best players. Create core roster strength. Fill out the roster spots later. And then Erickson, the other thing that I would say about, some of these when they go to the half, and then like the standard's a bigger jump, but very rarely, like you look year over year, like a guy's wide receiver 5 in one, he's wide receiver 4 in the other. Like it's not that different. Same thing with running back. The outliers are when you get those weird touchdown seasons like Jamall Williams last year. The 17 touchdowns for Jamall Williams in standard and a half. It's like, oh, great. In PPR, he's still kind of like, well, like even all those touchdowns can't quite make it up. Let's go to Jeff Argello. Hey, fellas. You guys helped me win my league last year. Well, good, Jeff. Congratulations. We're going to do it again this year. So I have Dobbs, Spears, and both backup RBs for the Colts on the wire. Who would you go with? We're the best. Thanks, Jeff. You're the best too. What do you got here? You gonna go?
just keep Spears.
Just keep Spears. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, unless you need to start someone weak, like that's the thing. Like Deion Jackson is gonna have like maybe 1 week, and yet you want to start him against the Jaguars in week 1. Like, just let someone else start him. Like I don't know. Like unless you need someone to play, which you probably don't, considering we all had our drafts and. This is when your team's going to be at its healthiest at any point in the season.
Fair enough. And look, Jeff probably won his league last year because he was using our tools. And I want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, sync your leagues to Draft Wizard. Let us help you. Use the Draft Intel tool. It's got all the insights, all the little pieces and nuggets there about your tendencies and about the tendencies of your draft mates. And then it'll create robots for you to draft and mock against them. And then give you insights during the draft live as it's going on. You got the cheat sheet creator. You got all these amazing tools here. Use the tools, please. They're free to go find out. So Draft Wizard, go look at them. Go take a look there. Go premium, fantasypros.com/premium. Sync your leagues today. And then, of course, use my playbook, too, to manage all your leagues. But I got a great message from one of our listeners actually today. It's like, I ran 300 mock drafts. I've been using Draft Intel. The Draft Intel really helped me go in there and crush it. And it was a really nice message. I actually posted it in our Slack to all the dev team just to remind them what incredible work they're doing. So look, this is how you get that intelligence, right? It's not artificial intelligence. This is real intelligence. It's going to help you actually defeat the people in your draft. And that's what you need. Robots that help you in real life, not like the robots that, go out there and write fake articles that make no sense about anything. Those are my favorite things. Like the bad AI articles are my favorite things to read nowadays. I'm going to make a whole thing about it. All right, let's get to the next one here. Let's go to Malte Bartels. Dynasty third pick, Eckler or Saquon? First of all, in Dynasty, neither of these guys are in my top 3. So I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, why isn't it Bijan, Chase, or Jefferson?
It should be
one of those
Chase
guys?
because you know who he's playing quarterback with for the next 5 years. It should be Jefferson 2 and Bijan 3. Like, not Eckler or Saquon. These guys are at the tail end. Malte, baby. No, don't do this. This is a bad look. Don't do this.
I'd rather draft Garrett Wilson over those guys.
100% Garrett Wilson over those guys.
So I don't know.
Never draft running backs at the tail end in Dynasty. Like, that's the worst practice you could possibly have to create a good roster. Pat Magoo. Ahoy, Joey P. What does he want? What's that fresh Gabagool in the late round of tight ends? Only I could have figured out what he was trying to type there. So, Pat, good for you. And it's Gabagola. It's not Gabagool unless you're somebody from, Brooklyn or Bronx. One of these guys. I hate the way they killed all the Italian words in the neighborhood. It made me upset. But late round tight ends, good question here. Chigakonkwo, one that comes to mind too, because he's an interesting matchup play. Dalton Kincaid comes to mind. Njoku goes really late in drafts too, where he's still in that tight end 1 conversation. How about you? Who's your favorite late tight ends, Erickson?
Njoku. When he goes outside the top 100, I think that he's a good value pick when people are just like punting off tight end altogether. Higbee, I think is better in PPR because there's just really no one else in that offense that I think is going to suck up targets, not named Cooper Kupp. So Higbee was productive last year. And then Gerald Everett. I think Everett has a lot of touchdown upside in the Chargers offense.
Okay. Owen Taylor. There we go.
You're back.
We're back. And we're back. Love television, everybody. You can't get enough of it. That's why you stick around. You just never know what's going to happen. Let's go to Owen Taylor's question. Who should I draft at the 105? All right, so Jefferson's gone. Chase is gone. If Bijan or Tyreek Hill are there, I'm going that way. I know CMC will be gone probably, so I'm good. I would take Tyreek Hill in the full PPR. And in the half, I would probably still take Tyreek Hill, but I'd want to take Bijan just because I like having Bijan. But it depends on how you want to build your roster. But Owen, I think you can't go wrong with Taylor or Bijan. Hill or Bijan, excuse me. Taylor, all kinds of wrong.
I like Bijan or Chubb.
Yeah, you want to go Bijan Chubb over Tyreek Hill? Man, Tyreek Hill is so good.
Dude, Nick Chubb is so good. Nick Chubb's younger than Tyreek Hill is.
Yes, that is fair. He's also had a lot less contact in his life than Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. But it's funny. It's feel like nobody loved Nick Chubb, and now all of a sudden the last 2 weeks, everybody's like, Nick Chubb is a top 5 pick. And I'm like, where were you the last 2 months talking about this? Not you. You're okay. I like you. But other people, what's going on with that? Where's Chubb on your board?
Nick Chubb has gotten, he's RB2.
I love that. I'm here for that. I love that for you. SMN. Who do I draft first? Deebo, Chris Godwin, Hopkins, or Christian Watson? Erickson, you like to handle this one?
It would be Deebo.
Deebo? I'm going to wait, and I'm going to take Christian Watson last.
That's not an option. You got to pick one first.
Sure it is. I just made it the option. I'm the host of the show. I can do whatever I want. It's Watson last because he's going to go later than all those guys. And at the end of the day, I think he's going to have as many, if not more, points. And I think he's got just as much upside. He is younger than Hopkins. He is healthier than Godwin. And he might be in a position to become a true number 1 where I don't know if Deebo can do that. I think
Godwin's not injured. You hate Godwin.
Godwin's not injured right now. I said Hopkins could get injured. He's old. Godwin's always hurt. Let's not pretend like Godwin's
Oh my God. He tore his ACL and had 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons in between.
Baker Mayfield. Baker.
Yeah,
you excited about Baker Mayfield?
Preseason Baker Mayfield.
Oh yeah, Nothing makes me more excited than Baker Mayfield throwing lasers in the preseason. Oh boy, I can't wait. It's gonna be because track record tells us it's gonna go so well for Baker Mayfield after that. Who has more fantasy points at the end of the season? Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask? Go.
Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
Trask was never gonna play. He's barely gonna play.
Who's got more fantasy points at the end of the season? Baker Mayfield or Bryce Young?
Insert Arizona Cardinals quarterback.
I can't do that. By the way, speaking of that, Is that okay? Did you take the whole Colt McCoy cutting to mean that Kyler Murray is healthy, Clayton Tune is good, or they're tanking and Kyler Murray's never going to be heard from again in Arizona?
Dude, it's so obvious. They're just, I mean, they're not going to, you can't say you're tanking, but you're going to do everything in the power to tank. Like, it reminds me so much of that Miami situation a couple years ago when it was so clear, like, this team's not trying to win games. Like, this team's trying to lose games. So, yeah,
I
Arizona,
like Clayton Tune. He's fun.
and that
I think
should be a
people are
thing.
going to be
Like,
Clayton.
you should let him play and be like, hey, we have a nice backup now. Great. That's awesome.
Great. Terrific. Uncle Andrew is not happy about this, but Uncle Andrew is happy about the new giveaway here at Fantasy Pros. That Odell Beckham jersey, autographed by Odell Beckham himself.
BJ?
It's real. It's for you. Like the stream, drop a comment below, subscribe to Fantasy Pros, and you could win this bad boy right here. Again, don't forget to click the little bell till it goes ding. That way you know every time a piece of content drops. And of course, if you're the winner, just like Mr. Rivera, who just won the Josh Jacobs jersey, someone's going to win the Odell Beckham jersey. It's a good-looking jersey. Why should it be yours? And don't forget, speaking of YouTube, to join us tomorrow, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, for the Fantasy Festival of Friendship. It's going to be fantastic. We've got an incredible group of guests lined up there. Ratcliffe's going to be here. Sanis is going to be here. Charchi and Scott Pianowski is going to be on there. Marcus Grant's going to be on there. Oh, yeah. Andrew Erickson, Debro, Fitz, Sam Hoppin, Ryan Warmley, and me, Joey P, talking football for a gazillion hours. It's going to be amazing from 3 all the way till, I don't know, till I pass out, I guess. That's usually what we do. But in all fairness, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, watch along, watch back, listen to the best of the fest. This is the best thing you can do right before going into your drafts, especially if you've been busy and you haven't prepared as much. This is like that study session. This is that cram session where you go in there, you know everything you need to know, and then you go crush your drafts. That's the idea. All right, let's get back to the questions here. Again, if you've got questions, we've got answers. Drop them in the chat. Shane Turcotte, is Ridley worth a second-round pick? Shane, this is a fascinating question because yesterday in a 14-team league, I did take him in the second round because I wanted somebody else to take it wide receiver, because wide receiver, with some of the injuries we've had, it's getting a little wacky in the middle. It's not quite as reliable as I was hoping it would be. McLaurin getting hurt, the Judy injury. Look, I know Calvin Ridley's been pushed up. Calvin Ridley's looked great in the preseason. Like, he's looked terrific. Preseason doesn't matter except for the guys that it matters for, and it matters for Calvin Ridley. So at the end of the day, I don't want to play second round value, but if I really want to double up on wide receivers and they're quite a run, I'm willing to do it. I like it better in the third if you could do it. Erickson, what are your thoughts on Ridley? Is that too high?
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned it was 14 teams, so
It's
a
a
little bit
14-team
different.
league, so yeah.
12-teamer, I'm not taking him in the second round. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
I get that he's looked good in the preseason, but no one's going necessarily full speed. Like, he's not playing the top deep. Like, come on, guys. Like, he literally hasn't played in 2 years. We're going to take a guy in the second round.
Here's a question. If we sat here and it is, well, I don't know, let's say January 10th, okay? It's cold. We're full of cookies from the holidays. We're hungover a little bit still from New Year's, whatever that might be. Erickson, if I told you Calvin Ridley was wide receiver 4 on the year, would you buy that? Would you say, yeah, okay, good on him? Like, if he ended the wide receiver 4?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible, but why can't guys going behind him just do the exact same? Like Deebo Samuel, he's already been a top 5 wide receiver.
He ain't gonna be one this year either.
Well, he's done it. He's done it more recently than Ridley has.
He did it more recently when he was taking 5,000 carries. He ain't gonna do that anymore.
He also had 1,400 receiving yards.
Hot take: Brandon Ayuk is better, just straight up better than Deebo.
That's fine, but I'm just saying, like, why would I draft Ridley when I can get that Deebo later?
I think Ridley's the alpha. That's why.
Is he though? Like, yes. By how much?
By a lot.
When Ridley was his most productive, Julio Jones was playing on one leg. His biggest competition was Kyle Pitts the last time we saw him play. Kyle Pitts is a rookie. Like, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram. Like, this is the hard.
2 more words for you?
This is the most target competition he's had. I'm just not taking him round 2. And this is like, I come off as a Ridley hater because I won't take him in round 2. But it's like, okay, so if he now meets expectations as a fantasy wide receiver 1, you drafted him what you got for. Like, and you're just baking on all this risk of a brand new situation with a quarterback we've never seen him play with after 2 years off of football. Like, there's plenty of scenarios where I could say, oh, are you going to be surprised when he finishes wide receiver 40? Yeah, same deal.
Yeah.
So Round 2 is like I love him in round 3 and round 4. Like I love that.
I like him
There are
around
ways
3
you can
better.
get him
2's
there,
a
but
little early. We
round 2
agree.
is early.
All right. Don't, just take a breath. Everything's going to be fine. Here's a question for you. Your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence this year?
I think that he's fine where he goes. I think that he goes a little high for my
No, not in
liking.
fantasy. In reality. Like, I look at Trevor Lawrence and I feel like people forget that he's the generational quarterback prospect. In fact, if we want to look back on that draft, it was so great for the quarterbacks. Well, Trey Lance just got traded. Mac Jones is like,
Well, he's the
got to
only
bounce
he's the only
back here.
quarterback left on the Patriots. So, stock up.
You better play. I'm driving up to Foxborough right after the show for the tryout. I'm going to be there. And then, Fields is still work in progress. I mean,
Zach
Wilson got replaced. So all of a sudden, that incredible quarterback class is really kind of a bust when you look at it. But Trevor Lawrence, see, I think I'm looking more at you're 100% right. There's risk in Calvin Ridley. I don't want to take him in the second round, but I'll take him in the third. Like, that's where I'm like, all right, do you like him as your wide receiver too? I think that's the real question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go. Shane, thank you for that excellent topic. Dylan Silverstein, what are your thoughts on Jake Ferguson this year? You got any thoughts on Jake Ferguson?
So Ferguson's interesting because he's emerges the tight end one in Dallas, which we like. Okay, like Dallas should be good offense, but there's also like a lot of good weapons on that team. Like we're putting him in like this Dalton Schultz role, and maybe he's a little more athletic than Schultz was. So we kind of look at it, like he could be a better version of Schultz. But I mean, Schultz was only competing with targets with Lamb, but now they have Cooks and Gallup's healthy. So I'm trying to figure out like if I'm Dak Prescott, like am I really going to be targeting this second year tight end like a ton in the passing game, like to make him worthy? And it's also a different offense where we don't know if he's going to have that Dalton Schultz role where he's going to be on the field running all the routes, where he's not splitting snaps with Schoonmaker, their second round pick, or Peyton Hendershot, the guy they also drafted last year. So
I love that name. Can I just say I love Peyton Hendershot? Like, that is the best name ever.
Like
my
name
is Joe
second only to Witherspoon of like the number one football names. Witherspoon is definitely my favorite.
Well, no, you got to go to the General Booties and the Kool-Aid McKinstry's to get to like the best.
I mean, just like a football name, not like it's fun.
Like, Smoke. That's a great football name. That's a football name right there.
Ferguson.
Brickashaw Ferguson. I want to play a game with you, me, and D-Bro. I'm going to give you Key or Peele or college player. Right? Like, so I'm going to create this. We're going to play it. I'm going to play it away on the Fantasy Fest tomorrow. All right, let's get to Brian Looper's question. AJ Brown or CeeDee Lamb?
AJ Brown for me. I think he can be better than it was last year.
I'll take. Okay, here's another one. AJ Brown or Amon-Ra St. Brown?
AJ Brown.
I agree. Dan Ratchet, is Breece Hall viable? My other RB is Mixon. Backups are P. Ryan and Antonio Gibson. Yeah, he's viable. Like, it's funny because Dalvin Cook is just starting to practice now. So like Dalvin Cook came in and was like running all over the place. Like, look at me, I'm healthy. Everything's great. Like, what are we doing here? Breece Hall is just in the same spot, if not maybe ahead of Dalvin Cook right now, because he knows the offense a little better, probably because he's been in camp longer. So I don't know. Like, I'm going to bet on youth and talent when it comes to running backs at all times. Like, that's my bet is on Breece Hall. I'm going to put that bet. The Dalvin Cook signing, do you know what happened to his yardage total, by the way, Erickson? It went down by 100 on Vegas. So what was like, I think it was like a number of, 750 or something like that. It went to 650.
Dalvin Cook?
No, Breece Hall.
Oh.
Smash. I'm in on Breece Hall because he's become so much of a discount now. It's gone so much the other way. I'm in. How about you, Erickson? You're the Breece Hall guy. Like, you are the dude when it comes to Breece Hall. Please tell me you're in on
it. No, I mean, I think that he's a really good value when he is in round 5. So I think that's really, and I think too, like he's talking about like how viable Hall is, like based on your roster, like if Hall is to slow, like you have P. Ryan. Okay, he could fill in. And Gibson is a guy that, could fill in PPR. So I think that those are, but while we're talking about Dalvin Cook, I don't want to forget to ask you this. So Achane, right? So you like Achane. Now,
I like Achane because he's free. And everybody, those guys are always hurt. And we're another year deeper with those guys.
I have a question for you. So considering how interested the Dolphins have been, they've shown interest in both Dalvin Cook and Jonathan Taylor. Would Achane be someone, if you have in Dynasty, that you should trade now? Because it's like next year, is it going to be Achane, or are they going to just bring another running back in and then he's going to dust?
No, I think there's some truth to that. If you can get something good for Achane,
Okay.
I mean, I'd be asking
Well,
for
maybe it's
at
when he
least a third or
becomes
second round pick.
like you're talking about maybe in the scenario where Achane becomes a starter, has a couple good games, and then you sell high on Achane
In
with next.
Dynasty, I got no problem with that. I think that
Okay.
makes sense because
Okay.
again, what's the long term, as you brought up so astutely before, the long term physicality of Achane is a liability in the
Yeah.
league.
So
So you want to sell him at the peak value? Yeah, I'm good with that. But in redraft leagues, you're gonna give me the free little fast running back on the fastest team on the planet. Like all they want to do is get these guys out in space and let them run. It's beautiful. Just run. Just glorious. Like it's so fun to watch. And our producer John, I know he loves the Dolphins. He loves watching those guys just run amok. I mean, I want to see a foot race between Achane and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I want all three of those guys to line up and race. That's what I want. It's gonna be fun. Let's get to Gabriel Rubio, Jamall Williams, or Isaiah Pacheco. This one's Pacheco for me, and it ain't close. Erickson?
yeah, Pacheco.
Let's not live in the past. All right, let's go to Nick Forbush. Which Colts RB going to take the first 4 weeks? Again, Erickson said Deion Jackson, but Hall is probably the longer term option there if you're worried about all season. I would still take Hall anyway, just because I like Evan Hall.
I just think that if you're really just focused on the beginning of the season, I don't think the Colts will want to put Evan Hall in a situation where they're having him protect
Sure.
Anthony Richardson as their franchise quarterback in his first game in the NFL. Like that just seems
That's
like
definitely. I don't know if I want any of those
Jackson.
guys doing
Jackson's
that.
at least played before. Trust him in pass pro. Like, and that's probably why he'll get the nod. And then if Zach
Well,
Moss comes back,
that's why the free agents are interesting. Like Kareem Hunt is interesting now.
yeah,
I mean, like I know I kind of dismissed the Fournette thing, but like if that's your concern, I just don't know how much you have to protect a guy like Richardson who's so big, strong, and fast who can move in the pocket.
sure.
Like it's not like trying to protect Tom Brady at this point. You know what I mean? Or Eli Manning, or these guys are just not moving in the pocket. Like Richardson, I'm not saying you don't want to protect him. Believe me, I get where you're coming from. But like if you go hard at Richardson, he's gonna pop out and run for 20 on you. Like that's just what he's gonna do.
And that's
So
why I really want to take the Colts plus money, whatever their odds are going to be when people start betting on Jacksonville in week 1, because it's going to be over the top, and Jacksonville's playing on the road. To me, it screams like a trap game. To be totally
it
honest.
might be. Like, you know what also is good? You should look at that Anthony Richardson rushing total for the year. I think that's like around 650 or something like that too.
I already got him. I got him rookie of the
You
year.
like that?
That's what I'm going to ride or die with.
No, that ain't happening. That's Bijan's award. Don't you
Not-
dare. Don't you dare.
He's a Richardson's a quarterback.
I don't care if he's a quarterback. Bijan
Kyler Murray
Robinson's
won
gonna
it over
take that team to
Saquon.
the playoffs.
Saquon was nasty as a
Bijan
rookie.
Robinson-
Kyler Murray still won it.
Bijan Robinson's gonna be Edgerrin James. And I said that before the NFL Network did. Go check the receipts. I love that. I tweeted that out a couple months before the combine, and then I'm watching the combine, and they had this whole big thing about Edgerrin James and Bijan Robinson. I'm like, gee, NFL, where'd you find that? My Twitter account or X or whatever.
Maybe they are stylistically similar.
They are. Random effect on a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, half point PPR. Should I flex wide receiver or RB? You should flex the best player. That's my answer. Random. The real Gee or the real Jiggy. I don't know what this was. Real 24. I botched a tight end position. I have Kincaid as my starting tight end. Should I switch him out for Gerald Everett? Would you do that?
I mean, I'd probably rather start Gerald Everett week 1. I mean,
That's
but
fair.
Kincaid is an upside play. I'd like to keep him on the bench.
He's a good college player. Look, here's all you need to know. You start Everett in the week 1, and then if Kincaid has a good game, you go, great, I'm okay. If Kincaid is not on the field at all, then you have a problem.
Mhm.
But, Kincaid, I think if he's working out of the slot and he gets some good opportunity, then we could see Kincaid actually be very productive, maybe even more productive than people realize. Cody Hutchinson is 105 too high to take Kelcee in a 10-team half PPR. It is if you're Andrew Erickson. It's not too high. In fact, I always say this, Erickson, I like the builds better when you can go Kelcee in the top 5, because then when it makes it back to you, you get maybe Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, and then you turn around with a Stevenson or somebody like that. And like all of a sudden, I kind of like the build of that team, but I don't want to take him over Bijan. I don't want to take him over Tyreek Hill. That's my problem.
Yeah,
the hair looks great. You know,
I just like other players. Like I mean, the same. I know Kelcee worked out last year, because he caught a bunch of touchdowns and got all the red zone usage. But
well, can we just say Kelcee works out every year? I mean, that's the thing. We keep waiting for this drop off, and maybe it's now. I mean,
it's going to happen eventually. So, yeah, I mean, why take the risk when you don't have to? If there's other options that I think are also just really, really
When
good.
would you, Andrew Erickson, want to take Kelcee?
End of the first round.
End of the
Like,
first
like
round.
he's just got to fall in ADP, like, and where I feel like I'm getting some type of value on the
I'll
pick.
tell you this, in the 10-team league, it's easier with the supply and demand to take Travis Kelce, because then the supply and demand of wide receiver coming back to you
Yeah.
and running back basically as well. It's more intriguing in the 10-team league than anything. I always say this, like the 10-team league, people are like, well, I can wait on this position. I'm like, no, I want the stars.
Yeah.
I want the stars at tight end. I want this because I want the star at quarterback. You know why? Because it's easier to find the wide receiver and running back talent, because it's just the supply and demand chain is better, depending on how many flexes you play. Like that one league that guy was playing before, like 12 flexes and one's a tight end flex, all kinds of stuff. Rich Willis, he doesn't play in those leagues. Rich knows what he's doing. Rich Willis, outlook for Kirk now that Ridley's there.
So I think that we're looking at the Kirk thing kind of in the wrong direction where, Kirk's kind of like falling a lot in a lot of drafts because of
Hmm.
Ridley. And to the point where like I'm kind of like interested more now in Kirk because Kirk has a really good connection with Trevor Lawrence. We saw it last year. Like that was his guy in the red zone. And in the preseason, he's gone to Christian Kirk a lot in the red zone. So even though if Kirk's manning the slot, Kirk's going to get easy matchups inside all the time with Ridley being the alpha on the outside. So for me, Kirk, maybe his targets aren't as high as they were last year, but he's still going to have a lot of boom games
I agree.
because of the
I like
offense he
Kirk.
plays in. And I mean, I've seen him fall sometimes like the 6th round because of the Ridley hype. So again, I
Do
would
you
use
like
this
him as your
Ridley
wide
hype.
receiver 3 in a full PPR?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
I do
like if
too.
Trevor Lawrence is as good as people think that have been hyping him up and is that as good as he can be, then he should be able to support
He is.
multiple fantasy weapons. So
He is that good. He is that good. It's just people forgot because Urban Meyer just completely destroyed him, and Urban Meyer came in and basically lit the Jaguars on fire, and it took half a season for Doug Peterson to put that fire out and start to rebuild it. And Trevor Lawrence is special. It's going to be excellent. All right, let's get to the next question here. Let's go to Dadan 18. Trade T. Higgins for Christian Watson and James Cook in Dynasty. I like this trade, actually. I think I do this. I like getting the two players because I think Cook has a good couple years ahead of him. So does Watson. And T. Higgins, as much as I like T. Higgins, I think you kind of see what T. Higgins is, which he is the, at best, wide receiver 10, 11, 12. Like, I don't, barring a Chase injury. Like, that's it.
yeah, I think you're trading. I would probably say Higgins is a pretty steady asset to where he is. So I don't see his value changing a lot, especially because he could be on a different team next year. So that could be good or bad. Whereas Watson and James Cook, this is kind of they're in kind of big years. Like you're going to see their value fluctuate. So
Mhm.
I think that if you're kind of shooting for more upside, I think I would take the risk on two guys with, you know, very volatile, I would say, values.
Okay.
Whereas Higgins is kind of cemented in there, and I like having two players as opposed to just getting one.
Chris says 12-team PPR. Who would you recommend the 8 pick?
AJ Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nick Chubb.
Chubb. What about Cup? If Cup makes it there, you want to take Cup?
I just, I was in on Cup, and then he got the hamstring thing, and I'm just
That was
terrified.
enough for you. The one hamstring, and then you're out.
I mean, again, he's over 30 years old.
I'm over 30 years old. He's
I,
gonna get rid of me just
I
because it's
mean, you
cut
did
day. You're
get
just
hurt
gonna
the
let
last
go of
time we
us.
played football, so
All the time that we've spent together over these many years, you and I, just like that. I pull
I mean,
one hamstring
you
and you're
did
done with
sustain
me.
a finger injury the last time we
I
played
did, but I
football.
played through it.
Is
I
Cooper Cup
played
going to
through
do
it.
that though? I don't know.
I scored 2 touchdowns in that game, led us to victory, championship. Very important. Pretty aight. What up, Joey P and Erickson? How late are you willing to draft a QB? And who are your late round QB targets? Well, in a single quarterback league, Kirk Cousins is 12. He's free. He finishes QB9 last year. I'm fine with that. I am fine with, I like Geno Smith. I like Deshaun Watson. I like taking a shot at somebody that's got the upside a little bit there. Like, so all three of those names right there, all three of those guys are interesting to me. Richardson's interesting too, because you could back it up immediately with boring ass Aaron Rodgers or boring Jared Goff or boring Derek. And pick your boring, any of those guys, and just back it up immediately. Erickson, how about you? Who's your favorite late round QB?
So I like a lot of the names you mentioned. I also like Daniel Jones, Geno,
I'm not. Do you like
Richardson.
Jones over Watson? I don't.
No, I like Watson the most.
Yeah, me too.
And then honestly, one that I really have moved up a lot in my rankings is Kenny Pickett. I like Kenny Pickett a lot because I think that he's not boring. I think that he offers a certain blend of rushing, good weapons. He's looked way better than he did last year. dude, I like the Steelers. I like backing the Steelers. Like, I think the Steelers offense has good pieces and it's going in the right direction. I think they're going to surprise people. They play the 49ers. That secondary is horrible. Like, they have great up front, but if Kenny Pickett's going to have any time to throw in that game, I think he's going to shred the 49ers secondary. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's go to the next question here. We'll try to rapid fire some more of these. Let's do Immaculate Joe. Dalton Kincaid, fantasy value this year and in Dynasty. In Dynasty, really interesting long-term value. Had a really good career in college. Good hands, good route runner. Like there's a reason why the Bills moved up to take him, and they need some more hands around there besides Stephon Diggs. This year, a little trickier. Again, rookie tight ends. Even if he does work in the slot, it's going to be telling right away. It's all about usage for him. Chris Casella, Fantasy Pros, would you be fine with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith as your top 2 wide receivers, even though they're on the same team? Now, this is an interesting one. I'm okay with this. It's going to suck that one bye week, but to be honest with you, if you're going to take A.J. Brown with your first pick and then Devonta Smith with your second pick, you might as well just take Jalen Hurts and just go all in. Like, that's kind of how I look at this, because they're all appropriate round value 1, 2, 3, and then you're just in for a penny, in for a pound. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but if you're going to do it, I would just do it with that particular grouping. I don't think you can do that with a lot of groups, but you can with the Eagles. Erickson, what do you think about this?
I'm not as high on Devonta Smith as a round 2 guy, so I personally wouldn't do this. But I'm not like against stacking good offenses. I think it's a good approach. So if you think that Smith is worth round 2, then I think that's fine.
I'd rather have Waddle. I'd rather have Olave. I'd rather have those guys.
Yeah.
Like, I just think, again, you're capping your own team. Because if A.J. Brown's healthy and he's the alpha, well, Devonta Smith is still very good, but then you're missing out on the upside of what Olave or Garrett Wilson could be.
If anything, I'd rather draft one of those receivers and then draft Dallas Goedert later. That's how I would look at it. I think it's a better approach.
Rick Hicks room. Ridley or Stevenson in the 4th round? I'm going Ridley in the 4th.
I like both of them. In that
range, I like them both. Like, if you can get them by the 4th, it's
I don't
great.
think you can go either. I think just receiver, running back, whichever I need more at the time.
Nicolas Cage. Trade away JT for James Conner.
See, I don't know if I can do that.
That I don't do. Like,
I feel like you're going to regret it at the end of the season.
Probably, but I'm not doing it. I want more in theory. But if I have Taylor, I'm trading him. I'm listening, and you should.
But it's interesting to see kind of where the JT values are. Someone mentioned Herbert. Someone mentioned James Conner. So, like, think about these names when you're on the draft board. It's like, if he's
would you rather have Jacobs or Alvin Kamara?
Josh Jacobs or Alvin Kamara this year?
No, I'm sorry, not Jacobs. Jonathan Taylor or Alvin Kamara. Pardon me.
Oh, Jonathan Taylor.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I guess it's one. I think it's something I got to marinate on. VV Dark Link, Miles Morales in the 4th, or Peter Parker in the 2nd. I think Miles Morales in the 4th is a better value.
Yeah.
Second, Spider-Verse movie was tremendous. Really good. Great ending, too. I can't wait to see the 3rd. See, these are the questions we need. Drucifer, for a keeper league, Miles Sanders or Khalil Herbert? Can I say neither?
Probably Sanders, because he's on the Panthers for the long term, so he has a job security. It's like,
I'm drafting Chuba everywhere late, though, just because I don't buy into Sanders. Let's go to Nick, 12-team PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex. Should I drop Damian Harris for Treylon Burks, Mooney, Rondell Moore?
I guess if I drop him for somebody, it'd probably be Burks.
Okay, even though Burks hasn't been... Is Burks back now officially healthy enough for week 1?
I don't know. Again, I haven't done week 1 stuff.
Well, the thing is he's got to replace Judy.
Well,
here's the thing. He's got to replace Judy. So, Nick, I think the answer is whoever is healthiest in this grouping at the time. Like, look at the injury reports, and if you're worried about Treylon Burks for the first 2 weeks, then he's not the answer to this problem. Then maybe it is Mooney or maybe it's Rondell Moore. Ugh. Dares... regarding Brian Robinson or Montgomery, good enough for an RB2 spot this year. Who's better, Brian Robinson or David Montgomery? I would think Montgomery, no?
Montgomery.
Yeah. Let's go to A12345, 10-team 2 QB half PPR was offered Fields, Walker, and Bisgsby for Herbert and Gibbs. Herbert and Gibbs or Fields, Walker, and Bisgsby. This is tricky because Fields is the most potentially interesting piece, and you're giving that piece away.
I'm keeping Herbert and Gibbs.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Gibbs
it's the better
has way more upside than Ken Walker does.
Yep. Go to Benji Schreiber. What is the correct time to start taking your guys regardless of ADP? Or does it depend on draft position? This is a great question, Benji. I wish it was a perfect answer for this. You take your guys when the board shows you there's no value elsewhere that really interests you. I'll give you, for instance, as in a draft yesterday, there were some names above, Zay Flowers that I'm just not interested in. Then probably, Zay Flowers, I could wait another round and maybe snag him. Nope, not going to wait. I'm just going to take my guy because I believe. Erickson, is that your rule of thumb too?
Yeah, it's interesting that you thought of you brought up Zay Flowers because I was thinking about that when I was doing my FFPC draft last night,
Nah.
the Fantasy Pros Championship. I took Zay Flowers in round 8, like maybe one round ahead of ADP, but
So
I think round 8, honestly, once that happens, I think it's like, all right, I can be a little bit more loose with the draft. You've already kind of established your players, most of your starters are locked and loaded, but now it's like, especially with rookies, because rookies ADPs they're really not right. Like, we don't really know what Zay
correct.
Flowers is going to
Yep.
do. So,
Mhm.
taking him in round 8 versus round 10 or 9 or 7, it probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. As long as you're not taking him in round 4, where it's like, okay, now he has to deliver. That's where you want to pump the brakes. But I think round 8 is kind of the beginning of that. All right, I can start being more aggressive trying to get my guys on my roster.
Agreed. Yeah, so basically like a round or so, that's about right. Because you don't want to go crazy because then you're missing out on other talent.
Yeah.
But at least a round is fine. Like, I'm fine with that. I'd rather have the guys that I want than miss them because and have the FOMO. Like that's way worse, especially with the rookies. Andrew makes a great point there. You're a smart guy. We should keep you around. Drew Bumpus. Will Kareem Hunt play this year? Is he worth holding? I'm not holding him.
I mean, unless it's like a 16-team league or
See ya.
Dynasty.
Nope. See ya. Sentinel, could you talk about Mims with Judy? Oh my God, Erickson could talk about Mims all day, but we
Love
only got
Mims.
a minute or two left. Go ahead.
Love Marvin Mims is gonna be the highest scoring Broncos wide receiver this year.
Oh no. 2 years in a row with the Broncos wide receiver stuff. You really want to do this at the end of the show? Do you want to do this?
What are the odds I'm wrong back to back years?
50%.
Exactly. I like those odds.
I like those odds.
I'll take it. Minus 110 on each side, baby. Let's go.
Let's go to Kwong Kim. I'm taking 2 wide receivers in my first 2 rounds, Chase and Waddle. Okay, well, I'm glad, Kwong, that you have the exactly how your draft's going to work out. With my early 3rd rounder, should I target Mixon or one of the elite QBs, Hurts or Allen? I mean, to me, Mixon's not a 3rd round value player for me. He's just
Agreed.
not. So I would rather have one of the QBs. So Andrew's in there too. Adam Barnell, any draft advice for Dynasty newbie? Yeah. Use our tools at Fantasy Pros. Go get the Fantasy Black Book on Amazon. The Thor Nystrom, our buddy Thor, does the most incredible Dynasty write-ups of all the guys. You got to check it out. It's so good. Thor's a genius. But look, it's you're trying to win in a 2 to 3 year window. Don't overpay for guys who running backs towards the end of their prime. I would be stronger on wide receiver. It's super flex, and most are. Pay very close attention to those young quarterbacks and try to get them locked in. That's my best advice for you. Matthew Chalk, who would you take first, Zay Flowers or Sky Moore? Zay Flowers for me.
Zay.
But I'm getting so many drafts where I'm getting 2 of the 3, if not all 3. Zay Flowers, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore.
Yeah.
That's my holy trinity. If you let me get all 3 of them, the league is over. Just telling you, you've already lost to me. Don't let me get all 3 of them. All right, let's get one more here. Let's get to Michael Barton. Oh, this is a fun one. Mike Gesicki or Luke Musgrave? Which way you want to go with this one?
Luke Musgrave.
Luke Musgrave. Okay. All right, everybody, don't forget, tomorrow is the big show, Fantasy Fest. Every year we do this. We want you to be a part of it. Subscribe to youtube.com/fantasypros. Click the bell till it goes ding. It starts at 3 p.m. Eastern. It runs all afternoon into the evening. Mock drafts, incredible guests, incredible insight. Join us for all of it and check out Best of the Fest on the audio side too. Shout out to John running the stream today. Tomorrow's going to be epic. It's going to be magic. We want you to be with us. We want to talk football all day tomorrow. To heck with work and responsibility. It's fantasy football season, damn it. And go subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube. Drop the comment below, and you might just win that Odell Beckham jersey. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. See you tomorrow.